The narrative begins in a dense forest during the night, and we see a woman in panic running among the trees being chased. Suddenly, she abruptly awakens from the nightmare. It is a disturbing dream experienced by Sarah Price. Hours later, Sarah is seen organizing her belongings to leave home. She packs her bags and heads to the airport, determined to travel to Japan. During the taxi ride, she begins to relive fragmented memories. It is revealed that her twin sister, Samanta Price, is missing. Samanta lived in Japan, where she worked as an English teacher, and was last seen entering Aokigahara, the famous forest associated with deadly cases. Local authorities informed Sarah that they believe Samanta chose her tragic fate and ended the search, as she has not returned for several days. However, Sarah refuses to accept this conclusion and firmly maintains hope. Her fiancé, Rob, tries to convince her to give up, arguing that Samanta has always had impulsive behavior and a strange attraction to danger. Determined and emotionally shaken, Sarah decides to travel alone to Japan in search of her sister. Still in the taxi, something unsettling happens. An unknown man suddenly knocks on the window and begins to laugh in a disturbing manner. Sarah is deeply frightened, already fragile from the stress of the trip. At the hotel, she obsessively researches information about Aokigahara. She finds disturbing photographs of bodies removed from the forest and feels growing unease. That night, she dreams that she is in a dark and suffocating basement. In one corner, there is a small yellow tent. When she opens it, she sees a little girl who begins to scream. The child's face transforms into something monstrous and frightening. These visions seem connected to the turbulent past that Sarah shares with Samanta. Old memories continue to haunt her, and Sarah intensely believes that her sister is still alive, trapped somewhere, and in urgent need of help. The next day, Sarah visits the school where Samanta taught. As soon as she enters the classroom, a terrified student screams upon seeing her. As Sarah and Samanta are identical twins, the student believes she is facing a yurei, a vengeful spirit from Japanese folklore. The school principal explains that in the past, elderly or sick women were abandoned in the forest to die. Their spirits would return consumed by resentment, transforming into malevolent entities. Sarah asks for access to Samanta's room and finds detailed notes about the forest. Samanta had been intensely researching the place and frequently used sleeping pills. Life had always been complicated for her, and not even the move to Japan in search of renewal brought relief. Aokigahara, according to the principal, is the destination of emotionally devastated people. Through memories of the past, it is revealed that the sisters were raised by their grandmother after difficult circumstances. They shared a very strong bond, almost inexplicable, but a dark event from the past still cast shadows over both. Taking a train toward the forest, Sarah makes a stop at a small roadside inn and asks the owner about Samanta. The woman states that Samanta was there during a recent trip, but then mysteriously disappeared. Then she adds something unsettling. Samanta has already been found. Her body is kept in the basement. Sarah is in shock, overwhelmed by disbelief. The owner explains that whenever a body is removed from the forest, it remains there until identified by a family member. Otherwise, according to local beliefs, the spirits cry and howl throughout the night. The innkeeper leads Sarah to the cold and dimly lit basement, where several bodies rest under white sheets. She uncovers one of them and claims it belongs to Samanta, then steps away. Sarah, trembling, pulls the sheet herself and faces a corpse in advanced decomposition. To her anguished relief, it is not her sister. That is something positive, the woman comments with unsettling coldness. When Sarah asks about the possibility of hiring a guide, the owner severely warns her that Aokigahara is extremely dangerous. Even if she finds someone willing to accompany her, she must never leave the marked trail. If she gets lost, death will be inevitable, not only because of the natural dangers of the forest, but also because of the supernatural forces that, according to ancient reports, inhabit the place. Later, while trying to get cell phone signal outside the inn, Sarah meets a young local resident who states that it is impossible to get reception there. Iron deposits in the mountains block any communication. The girl reinforces the warning never to leave the main path. The yurei, according to her, can perceive human sadness and manipulate it, creating illusions that lead people to despair and self-destruction. Sarah dismisses the explanation as cultural superstition and continues her journey on foot. On the way, she observes a group of students leaving the forest with tense expressions. The atmosphere feels strangely heavy and silent. Back at the hotel, Sarah meets Aidan, a journalist who writes for an Australian magazine specializing in cultural phenomena and contemporary mysteries. Sarah reveals to Aidan that she is determined to locate her sister, and since no one else is willing to help her, she intends to enter the forest alone. Aidan questions how she can be so certain that Samanta is still alive. Sarah explains that they are identical twins. If something had truly happened to Samanta, she would feel it immediately. Aidan warns her again that the forest represents real and psychological danger. He plans to enter the next day accompanied by an experienced guide and invites her to join. However, in exchange, he wants to write a detailed report about her search. Sarah accepts the proposal. That night, during the interview, she shares fragments of the past. When they were children, she and Samanta lived with their grandmother. One night, they heard a crash from outside the house. A drunk driver crashed into the entrance of the residence, killing the girl's parents instantly. Samanta saw the bodies, but the grandmother prevented Sarah from looking. However, the version told by Sarah does not match the flashbacks shown in the story. In reality, the father shot the mother and then ended his own life. Samanta witnessed everything and never fully overcame the trauma. Whether because Sarah lied to Aidan, did not trust him, or was protected from the truth by her grandmother, she never knew all the details of what happened. Aidan shows compassion and apologizes for the remembered pain, but Sarah minimizes the impact. It all happened a long time ago, she says. During the night, the hotel lights begin to flicker unsettlingly. Sarah sees a figure standing in the corridor and cautiously approaches, only to be attacked by an elderly woman suffering from sleepwalking and mental confusion. The next morning, Aidan introduces Sarah to Jong, an experienced forest ranger with deep knowledge of the region. Jong usually locates bodies of people who ended their own lives and knows every trail in the forest. He warns Sarah that entering in that emotional state can be dangerous. The forest seems to feed on intense feelings, fear and sadness. Sarah refuses to give up and asks what he would do if it were his own child missing. Convinced by the emotional appeal, Jong decides to lead them inside. Before departing, he gives one last serious warning. If they see something strange or disturbing, it is not real. The forest will try to deceive their minds and distort perceptions. The environment is frighteningly silent, almost suffocating. Aidan shows Sarah his compass, which spins uncontrollably. Instead of pointing north, he explains that iron deposits in the mountains interfere with magnetic orientation. Soon they encounter a man camping alone. Jong comments that those who set up tents there are usually undecided about ending their own lives and use the place to reflect. While Jong talks to the man, Aidan discreetly asks if Samanta has ever tried to end her life. Sarah admits that it happened twice. On one occasion, Samanta ingested sleeping pills at a hostel, but Sarah felt something was wrong, called the police and managed to save her in time. Further ahead, they spot colored ribbons tied to tree trunks. Jong explains that they are used to mark paths to bodies. One of the ribbons appears recent, so they decide to follow it and find a man hanging. Sarah is deeply shaken by the scene. Jong marks the location for the guards, and with Aidan's help, lowers the body respectfully. Sometime later, Sarah feels a strange pull in a certain direction. She insists they follow her and soon finds an abandoned tent. The objects there confirm that they belong to Samanta. Sarah fills with hope. Perhaps Samanta is still alive. Jong warns that they have moved too far from the main road. Night is approaching and the cold will intensify quickly. He insists they return and resume the search in the morning. Sarah refuses, believing that Samanta might return to the tent during the night. Jong warns that darkness in the forest is extremely dangerous. The Yurei, according to legends, feed on human fear. Even so, Sarah remains firm and says they can leave without her. Aidan decides to stay by her side, and Jong reluctantly agrees to return at dawn. Before leaving, he advises Sarah to leave a note for her sister, a recommendation she ignores. During the night, Sarah and Aidan remain by the fire. She explains that she always feels when Samanta is in danger, a connection she attributes to being twins. Aidan says he understands that feeling. His younger brother often got into trouble, but Aiden did not always help him, believing that it would make him learn. A fight ended, leaving the brother deaf in one ear, something Aiden deeply regrets to this day. He promises never to turn his back on someone close again. Later, Sarah enters the tent while Aiden remains lying near the fire, watching her in a way that makes the moment uncomfortable and ambiguous. In the middle of the night, Sarah awakens with the sensation that someone is outside. She calls for Aiden, but gets no response. The shadow of a hand presses against the tent fabric. When she opens the zipper, 3 ghostly Yurei, dressed in white robes, advance toward her. She wakes up startled, breathing with difficulty. It was only an intense and disturbing nightmare. Outside, Aiden is asleep next to the almost extinguished fire. Suddenly, Sarah hears a voice echoing deeper among the trees and decides to follow it, driven by unease. She finds a frightened young student who calls her by name and says her name is Hoso. Surprised, Sarah asks if she was Samanta's student. Hoso only responds that Samanta is looking for her and warns her not to trust Aiden under any circumstances. Before Sarah can react, the girl disappears running among the trunks. Sarah tries to reach her, but stumbles and falls, opening a deep cut on her hand. Shortly after, Aiden appears concerned. Sarah mentions the encounter with Hoso, but keeps to herself the warning she received. At dawn, Aiden insists that they need to return, because her wound needs medical care. Jong is nowhere nearby, and they do not know the exact way out, but Aiden suggests informing the police about the girl, which might help locate Samanta. Sarah accepts, although reluctantly. After long hours walking, they reach a river. Sarah realizes that they never crossed that point when Jong guided them earlier. Aiden explains that by following the current, they will eventually reach an inhabited area. Suddenly, Sarah sees a body floating in the murky water. When she points it out, Aiden urges her to keep walking, avoiding looking back. Suspicion begins to grow inside her. He insists they are just following the natural course of the river. When Sarah checks again, she realizes he is telling the truth, but the feeling of strangeness remains. The forest seems to be gradually confusing her mind. As they continue, Aiden's phone accidentally plays part of the recording from the previous night. Distrustful, Sarah questions whether he stayed by her side only out of journalistic interest. Aiden admits that the job is part of the reason, but says he also cares about her and Samanta. Her uncertainty increases. She asks if he really has a brother, and Aiden confesses that he invented that story to gain her trust. Sarah presses him further, asking what the real reason is for him being there. She forces him to state whether he knew Samanta before meeting her. Aiden categorically denies it. Sarah demands the phone to delete the recordings. He reluctantly hands it over. While examining the images, she finds a photograph of Samanta. The discovery enrages her. She accuses him of lying and hiding that he knew her sister. Aiden appears genuinely confused and claims he has never seen that photo. When he tries to retrieve the phone, they get into a fight. Now Sarah is completely convinced that he is not trustworthy. She runs into the dense forest. Aiden calls her repeatedly, but she does not stop. Meanwhile, Jong returns to the campsite and finds the place abandoned. The concern intensifies. In another part of the forest, Sarah runs until she finds a rope-like cable and uses it to mark the path, hoping it will lead her back to the main trail. Soon she hears a spectral voice whispering among the trees. Shadows of hanging bodies appear before her, urging her to turn around. Sarah screams that she knows none of it is real, but a spiritual figure lunges at her, making her run in panic until she falls into a deep pit hidden under the vegetation. At the edge of the forest, Jong organizes a search team. At his side is Rob, Sarah's fiancé, who traveled to Japan fearing for her safety. Meanwhile, Sarah regains consciousness at the bottom of the damp and dark pit. With trembling hands and accelerated breathing, she turns on the flashlight and follows a faint voice through a narrow, wet, and suffocating tunnel. There she reunites with Hoso, who claims she will lead her to Samanta, without explaining how she knows for sure. When Sarah questions why Samanta would be hiding in that underground place, Hoso only smiles in an empty and disturbing way before running through the narrow corridors. Sarah catches up to her and illuminates her face, realizing that she is not a living person, but a disguised spirit. Overcome with terror, she returns to the place where she fell and screams for help. By chance, Aiden hears her distant call and goes to get a sturdy rope. Alone again at the bottom of the pit, Sarah tries to convince herself that everything she sees is just an illusion created by the forest. On the ground, she finds an old toy viewer and looks through it, reliving memories of the night her parents died. Suddenly, the image of her dead father appears before her with disturbing clarity, making her scream and drop the object. Aiden returns and manages to pull her up with effort. He says he found an old forest ranger station that may have a working radio. Sarah continues to distrust him, but he hands her his knife as a gesture of trust. On the way, she stops by the riverbank to wash the wound on her hand and sees the skin rotting rapidly before her eyes. About to cut her own flesh, she is interrupted by Aiden's voice, realizing it was another cruel hallucination. At nightfall, they reach the abandoned station. Sarah cannot help but question how Aiden found her so easily. While he tries to fix the old radio, she notices chocolate wrappers identical to those he ate before scattered on the floor. He has been there previously. Aiden asks for the knife to force the equipment, and despite hesitation, Sarah gives it to him. Exploring the darkness inside, she finds a locked door. From within, she hears Samanta's voice asking for help. A piece of paper slides under the door with the message, "Aiden will kill us. Find the key." Sarah freezes. Samanta may be trapped there. She finds another knife, places it against Aiden's neck, and demands that he free her. Aiden tries to calm her, stating that Samanta has been missing for days and is probably dead. Sarah demands the key. To reassure her, he says it is in his boot. When she steps back slightly, Aiden tries to grab the knife, realizing that the forest is distorting her perception. During the desperate struggle, the blade pierces his body. Aiden falls and dies almost instantly. The door opens by itself with a slow and unsettling creak. Sarah runs inside, only to be enveloped by an intense flashback of the night her parents died. She sees young Samanta and covers her sister's eyes, trying to spare her from that devastating trauma. Abruptly, the dead father rises and grips her hand with brutal force. Sarah uses the knife to cut his fingers, freeing herself, and runs desperately. At the same time, in the real forest, Samanta, somewhere nearby, feels an inexplicable disturbance and suddenly stands up, beginning to run among the dense trees. Sarah leaves the station pursued by a mass of restless spirits that surround her. She sees Samanta in the distance and screams her name repeatedly, but Samanta cannot hear her. In another area of the woods, Jong and Rob lead the search team back when Samanta appears staggering before them, visibly exhausted. Surprised, they ask what happened. Samanta reports that she was lost in the forest for 5 entire days. When she asks about Sarah, Rob replies that they will resume the search at dawn the next day. Sarah, still running in desperation, sees Hoso once more ahead. The girl silently points to Sarah's injured hand, where deep cuts run across her bloody skin. The realization strikes her like a blow. The hand she believed she cut from her father was in fact her own hand. The scene then returns to the steps of the forest ranger station. Sarah's lifeless body is sitting there, without life. The version of Sarah we followed was only her spirit wandering. That is why Samanta could never hear her anguished pleas. Upon realizing the devastating truth, Sarah is consumed by absolute panic. Suddenly, the malevolent spirits of the forest envelop her and drag her essence into the dark and cold earth. Far from there, Samanta feels a deep emptiness tightening her chest. A strange serenity surrounds her, as if the invisible bond she shared with her sister had been broken forever. She understands the meaning of that sensation. Sarah died. Before, when Sarah perceived that intense connection, it was because Samanta was still alive. Now Samanta experiences only the crushing absence of irreparable loss. Sarah traveled to Japan determined to find her. However, in trying to save her sister, she ended up tragically sacrificing her own life. Samanta and Rob prepare to leave the place by car. At the entrance of the forest, Jong casts one last look back and freezes. Among the shadowy trees, Sarah's spirit appears. But already transformed, she is no longer who she was. The narrative ends by stating that she has become a malevolent Yurei, condemned to remain eternally trapped in the dark forest.